Next up, we have Dr. Charles W. Page, the author of A Spoonful of Courage for the Sick and Suffering. A Spoonful of Courage for the Sick and Suffering is a collection of inspiring stories told by a physician that aim to encourage the sick and suffering with truth, hope, and faith. How are you doing, Dr. Page?
Great.
Great.
Thanks.
Can you tell us about yourself and your new book?
Well, I tell people I'm the best guy to see on the worst day of your life. I'm a surgeon, and I'm the guy that you hope you never have to see. But anyway, even as Jim was talking about his story, you know, we all have health stories, and we all at some point in our life will have a health crisis, and that's what A Spoonful of Courage is about. These are inspiring stories, faith-based, inspirational stories that just tell about ordinary people and how they respond to their health challenges. And we didn't call it a spoonful of sugar for a reason, because suffering is real and it's painful. But it's interesting, following patients and walking with them over the past 20 years, I've realized that there's some certain attitudes that help people to survive their difficult health crisis.
Gotcha. So you're a busy surgeon and a father of 5 children. What motivated you to write this book?
Well, some of it was just hearing people's stories. You know, every day we hear these tragic things that happen in the lives of people. But I actually had a similar episode about 2 years ago. My office building burned down.
Wow.
And so as I watched my building go down in flames, I began to think about all those questions that we tend to have. You know, why me? Why now? Why God? All of those things that cross our mind. Why not somebody else? And so as people began to hear my story about what happened in my life, people began to tell me their stories. And what I found was really interesting is when I heard the stories of other people and what they had to go through, it really motivated me and encouraged me to keep going. Like, for example, I had a guy, you know, he found out that my office building burned down. And he says, well, Doc, you're not going to believe this, but my house burned down and my invalid wife was in the house.
Wow.
And I couldn't get her out. And I watched that house burn down with my wife inside.
Wow.
You know, and as I began to hear that guy's story, I began to realize, you know, I don't have it as bad.
Right.
You know, I mean, it really pales in
perspective.
comparison. And so as I began to hear these stories, I began to realize that these ordinary people have a story to tell. And what's interesting is to see what an impact that faith makes in their life.
Yeah, for sure. So what is the primary life-changing principle that will add value to the reader?
I think what I want readers to get from this book is a change of focus. So often, you know, our feelings overwhelm us. You know, when we're going through a difficult time, you know, we feel alone, we feel inadequate to face the challenges that we're going to have to face. We feel confused. We feel, we fear maybe pain or maybe how our sickness is going to change our lives. And this book really focuses not so much on our feelings, but it takes us back to the facts, and it takes us back to Scripture and what Scripture has to say for those who are going through difficult times. So once again, fact, then faith, then our feelings. I mean, I guess another way you could say it, so often when we're going through a difficult circumstances in our life, we want to look inward. We want to ask all those questions, which is normal, but this book really helps people to focus upward, to see what God has to say about it, and then really, even more than that, to focus outward. The people that I think that really thrive in the midst of a health crisis are the people who decide to do something about it and encourage another person.
Great. Sounds like an excellent story. Thanks for sharing today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.